Darkness is not a physical substance. You cannot hold a jar of darkness. Darkness is simply the absence of light. And in the landscape of the human mind, suffering operates the same way. It is the absence of clarity. We often think we need a miracle to fix our broken lives, a winning lottery ticket, a cured disease, a sudden change of luck. But the ancient texts suggest something different. They suggest that the miracle you are looking for isn't an event, it is an insight. Krishna is often called the light of the universe. But this isn't just a poetic title, it is a functional description. His teachings act as a high-intensity beam that cuts through the fog of confusion. Today, we are going to look at the miracles of Krishna, not as magic tricks performed thousands of years ago, but as psychological blueprints for surviving the chaos of the modern world. We are going to decode the story of the floating mountain and the dancing snake to find the shelter you need right now. To understand the first major insight, we have to transport ourselves back to the village of Vrindavan. But don't picture a fairy tale. Picture an agrarian society living on the edge of survival. These people were farmers. Their lives were entirely dependent on the rain. If it didn't rain, they starved. If it rained too much, they drowned. They lived in a state of constant, low-level anxiety. And because of this anxiety, they had a system, a transaction. Every year, they held a massive, expensive sacrifice for Indra, the king of heaven and the god of thunder. It was a protection racket. The villagers believed that if they paid Indra with rituals and food, he wouldn't destroy them. It wasn't worship born of love. It was worship born of terror. They were trying to control the uncontrollable. Enter Krishna, a 7-year-old boy who watches his father, Nanda, trembling with worry over the preparations. And Krishna asks a question that shatters the entire paradigm. Why? He looks at the logistics. He points to Govardhan Hill, a massive mountain nearby. He says, "Father, Indra doesn't feed our cows. The hill does. The hill provides the grass. The hill filters the water. The hill gives us the timber and the shade. Why are we worshiping a distant politician in the sky when the source of our survival is right here beneath our feet?" This was a radical, revolutionary moment. Krishna was disrupting the spiritual economy. He convinced the entire village to take the offerings meant for the god of fear and instead offer them to the mountain of sustenance. He taught them to honor the immediate, the tangible, and the natural. He shifted their focus from appeasing a tyrant to expressing gratitude for nature. But here is the catch. When you stop feeding the ego of a tyrant, the tyrant strikes back. Indra looked down. He saw the villagers circling the hill, laughing, feasting, not afraid of him anymore. And his ego snapped. He didn't just send rain, he sent the Samvartaka, the clouds of the apocalypse. This is the moment in the story that represents the storms in your own life. The diagnosis you didn't expect, the layoff, the divorce, the moment the sky turns black and you realize you have zero control. The villagers were terrified. The water was rising. The cows were drowning. They ran to Krishna, screaming. They had followed his advice, and now their world was ending. And this is where the miracle happens. Krishna didn't chant a spell. He didn't fire a weapon. He walked to the base of the mountain, bent down, and lifted the entire geological mass into the air with the pinky finger of his left hand, the smallest finger, the weakest limb. He held it there for 7 days and 7 nights. Underneath that mountain, the entire village found shelter. The storm was raging outside. Physics says they should have been deafened by the thunder and freezing from the wind, but under the hill, it was dry. It was warm. It was peaceful. This is the code we need to crack. The miracle of Govardhan is not about anti-gravity. It is about the architecture of shelter. Indra represents the ego, the external world, that demands your compliance and threatens you with disaster if you don't play by its rules. The storm is the chaos of life that the ego unleashes when things don't go your way. But the hill represents divine grace. Krishna lifting it on his pinky finger is the critical detail. It signifies effortlessness. When you take shelter of the divine, when you shift your trust from the transactional world to the spiritual reality, protection doesn't require muscle. It doesn't require struggle. It is effortless. The storm didn't stop. The chaos of the world was still happening outside, but the people were unaffected because they were under the umbrella of a higher consciousness. The lesson is clear. You cannot stop the storm. You cannot stop the economy from crashing or people from leaving, but you can find the Govardhan within yourself. You can find that space of inner refuge where the external chaos simply cannot touch you. But sometimes the danger isn't a storm outside. Sometimes the danger is poison inside. This brings us to the second miracle, the taming of Kaliya. In the story, the Yamuna River, the lifeblood of the community, is infected. A multi-headed serpent named Kaliya moves into the water. His venom is so potent that the water boils. The fumes kill birds mid-flight. The trees on the bank wither and die. This is a perfect metaphor for the toxic mind. Kaliya represents the negative thought loops that infect your consciousness. Envy, anger, addiction, bitter resentment. Just like the snake, these thoughts poison the river of your life. They kill your creativity, the birds, and they ruin your growth, the trees. Krishna sees this, and what does he do? He doesn't drain the river. He jumps into the poison. The snake attacks, wrapping its coils around the boy, trying to crush the life out of him. This is what happens when you try to confront your own trauma or addiction. It fights back. It tries to suffocate you. But Krishna expands his body, breaking the hold. And then he does something iconic. He climbs onto the hoods of the monster and he begins to dance. He dances on the heads of the serpent. Every time a head rises up to bite, Krishna steps on it, forcing it down. He doesn't kill the snake immediately. He subdues it through the rhythm of his dance. This is a profound lesson in psychology. You cannot simply kill your lower nature. You have aggressive instincts. You have an ego. If you try to repress them violently, they just come back stronger. You have to dance on them. You have to master them. The dance represents spiritual discipline. It represents mindfulness. It represents the constant, rhythmic practice of keeping the ego in check. When Kaliya is finally beaten, coughing up blood, his wives beg for mercy, and Krishna grants it. He doesn't kill the snake, he banishes it to the ocean. He says, "Go, and because my footprints are on your head, your enemies will not touch you." The insight is this: your demons, once mastered, become harmless. The energy that used to be poison is transformed into submission. Krishna is teaching us that we don't need to fear our own darkness. We need to enter it, confront it, and discipline it until the poison is purged. But the greatest miracle of all isn't the mountain or the snake. It is the mechanism behind them. If you look closely at Krishna's life, he never performs a miracle to show off. He never does it for applause. He only performs a miracle in response to one thing: helplessness. The villagers were helpless against the rain. The river was helpless against the poison. This is the miracle of bhakti. The access code to Krishna's power is surrender. In a world that tells you to be strong, to be independent, to be a self-made man, Krishna offers a different path. He says that when you admit you cannot lift the mountain, He lifts it for you. When you admit you cannot fight the poison alone, He enters the water. The spiritual insight is that you are not meant to carry the weight of the world. You are not meant to lift the mountain. You are meant to trust the one who can. So, look at your life right now. Where is the storm raging? Is it in your finances, your health, your relationships? Stop trying to fight Indra with an umbrella. Go to the mountain. Where is the poison seeping in? Is it a grudge you're holding, or a habit you can't break? Stop ignoring it. Invite the divine to dance on the head of that serpent. The miracle of light isn't that the darkness disappears. It's that you are no longer afraid of it, because you know exactly who is standing beside you.